In the quiet rural area of England, where everything was silent and silent, there was a small village called Blackthorn. The village seemed to be lost in the fog of time. Blackthorn was a small village, with only a few houses that were located on both sides of a narrow and bent road. The villagers were in small numbers and they lived a simple life, like to be cut off from the world. There were some strange events coming to the village, but no one was openly saying these things. Blackthorn had a non-written principle: never question the shadow. A narrow and long way was leading to the village, and on the same path, a young girl, Eleanor Hartley, was walking with her feet, with anxiety in her heart. Eleanor, a London journalist, was sent to Blackthorn to write a report about the mysterious disappearances in the village. He was convinced that there was something in the story that people in the village were trying to hide. And although an extraordinary fear was in his heart, Eleanor could not ignore the yearning for knowing the reality of Undine. As she approached the village, she felt a strange silence. The trees and plants were high and complex on both sides of the road, and there was so much fog that the difference between the sky and the earth was diminishing. Blackthorn looked like a separate world, which was hidden from the rest of the world. As soon as he entered the village, Eleanor felt a strange feeling as if someone was watching him. There were shadows in the village houses, and their windows and doors were closed. There was no sound was coming. He took a slight look and looked at the small pub called Fox and Hound, where the door was openly sounding. The village's main square was in front, but he too felt deserted. In the meantime, Eleanor was heard a whisper, "Get out of here, now." He suddenly stopped, his heart was beating. But there was no one around. He turned his steps back and turned to the church. She came from there, or at least she felt like that. Eleanor's quest grew by the fact that she moved to the church. As she approached the church, her door opened automatically. Eleanor gathered for a moment to open the door. The air inside the church was very cool, and the aroma of old wood and downy spread into the atmosphere. Church glass windows, which were once colorful and beautiful, were now broken and stained. The dim light was coming from the windows, making the shadow more mysterious. She slowly moved, and the sound of her feet resonated in the silence of the church. Suddenly, a person appeared at the other end of the church. He was a thin, tall man, who was wearing a black coat, which looked strange in the rural atmosphere of Blackthorn. Her hair was black and random, and face to face, as the disease had grinded her color. She turned fast towards Eleanor and had a deep cold in her eyes. "What have you come here to do?" The man's voice was deep and screaming. Eleanor's heart began to be beating. This person, and especially in his eyes, was unusual. "I have come here to research the disappearances," Eleanor said, hiding his fears. "There are some strange things to hear in the village." There was a strange smile on the man's lips. "The strange things? You don't understand, Miss Hartley. The shadows in the village are not just stories. They are alive. They will slowly take everything." Eleanor was about to ask something else that the man suddenly turned and disappeared in the shadow. Eleanor came under the effect of his words, but he had many questions in his mind. Who was this person? And what did this mean by the shadow? Eleanor met the villagers the next few days, and asked questions one by one. An old woman, whose name was Mrs. Green, called her one evening. "You should leave here," Mrs. Green said in a frightened voice. "You don't understand, baby. These shadows are not just memories. They are alive, and they will take you." Eleanor's eyes focused on his words. There was something in the village that people were hiding. At night, she arrived in the forest near the village, so that she could find something that could correct the direction of her research. The forest trees had deepened, and the moonlight had also disappeared. Then suddenly, he saw that a shadow moved somewhere, which was not like a common shadow. but was a living creature. The shadow was moving fast, even faster for humans or animals. 11 immediately. He chased it. But when she reached the open space, the shadow disappeared, his breathing intensified and the fear was embedded in his body. In the corner of the place, he saw a stone, which was different from the rest of the stones. The stone was shiny and had some strange effects on it. As 11 touched the stone, a cold wave ran into his body. There was a stir from the bottom of the ground, and then a sound in his ears. "You have broken the ancient contract." Suddenly, the tour returned. This time he was feeling even more clear and real. He was going around 11, as if trying to hug him. 11 tried to scream in a loud voice, but the voice did not come out. The next day, the 11er went to the Blackthorn Library, an old and dirty room. The elderly librarian there took a quiet look at him. 11er pulled an old diary. The diary was from Jonathan Mills, a former Blackthorn resident, who disappeared several years ago. His diary contained strange writings, which mentioned a dark force that existed in the earth, a force that demanded a sacrifice every few years. The diary testified that the villagers had signed a contract to avoid this darkness, but the price of the deal was very heavy. 11er also read in his last pages that Jonathan had tried to expose the truth, but he failed in his efforts. Now there was a decision in front of 11er. She could leave Blackthorn and discover what she did, what could have never told her, or she would stop there and try to get rid of the village from her dark destiny. But when 11er was walking in the village streets in the evening, he felt that the village had determined its destiny itself. The shadows surrounded her and she could never be free from here. As the night's dark shadow, 11er began to move towards an old ruin-like building in the village. The building, which was once the residence of the elders of Blackthorn, was now empty and deserted. There was a sad silence at his door. She knew that everything she was looking for inside the building was hidden. As she entered, a cold air breeze drowned her body in the cold. The room was almost dark, except for a lamp that was giving dim light. 11er slowly began to inspect the room and his eyes fell on a book, which was open on a table. This book was about the same agreement mentioned in the diary of Jonathan Mills. 11er reversed the book page, and a horrific fact came. People in Blackthorn were trying to avoid its effects after a contract with an ancient spirit, but there was another secret to the deal. The contract was always broken in a certain period and then the people of the village were punished. 11er's eyes were on the page when a sound suddenly came. "You broke the contract." This sound was not of any human, but an invisible, mysterious force. 11er looked back, and there was the same man who had met him in the church. He had an unnatural smile on his face, and his eyes had a deep dark secret. "As much as you know, now he will end you," the man said. "Now you have to join the shadow of the village." 11er's breath stopped. She knew that the village was not just a village. It was a trap, in which it was not possible to get out after being trapped. 11er collected an enthusiasm within himself, as if he was ready to fight the devilish part of the village. He threw the book aside and began to move towards the man. She knew she had only one chance. She wanted to expose the dark secrets of the village, but even more important was that she could save herself. The man stopped in front of him. He had an ancient sword in his hands, with his streams shining. 11er gave up for a moment, but then he felt the strength of himself. "I won't let you go," 11er said with full courage, and took a step forward. Suddenly, a loud explosion sounded, and the whole room began to shake. 11er realized that it was the last of the shadow. A strange energy waves ran inside his body. She knew that she could either win this war or be a part of the village forever. He collected the power of himself and stepped towards the man with sharp steps. As she approached her, a great light shone and a deep silence in the room. The next morning, Blackthorn had a strange comfort. There was nothing on the streets of the village, no human, no voice. Eleanor's name was nowhere in the village. People say she left, but some people also say that her body had disappeared in the shadow of the village. Then a few days later, a new man came to Blackthorn, a researcher who came to know the truth of the mysterious events of the village. He had the same book in his hand that Eleanor last touched. And another new secret was hidden in the pages of this book. Another person who became part of the village. Eleanor Hartley's name was just alive as just a secret, and the shadows still walk in the village streets. Another story behind them is hidden, another secret. Termination.